Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America.
Good night and good luck.
Hey folks, it's Rick Wilson. Welcome back once again to the Lincoln Project podcast. And today's elephant in the room is relevance. You know, this week, Bret Stephens wrote a piece in the New York Times saying, "Done with Never Trump." And look, it was not a shock to me to read this. It was not a surprise to see it. I have been doing this now for almost a decade and watching one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other of people who claim to be principled conservatives and traditional Republicans find a way to bend the knee, find a way to give up, find a way to capitulate, find a way to wave the white flag once and for all in front of Donald Trump. And Bret has a good helping of both sidesism for a while now. And I think he really missed a really key point, though. There's a reason this tiny number of ex-Republicans and conservatives like myself, like Liz Cheney, like Denver Riggleman, like Adam Kinzinger, it's a small group. There are not a lot of us left. The guys here at the Lincoln Project, not a lot of us left. You could sit us around the table at an IHOP and we'd have a pretty good sized meeting, but there aren't billions of us and there aren't hundreds of thousands of us. There are a few thousand of people from the old Republican world willing to speak the truth, willing to stay in the fight, willing to not accept the false predicates of, well, maybe Trump's better this time. And that was really something that I found striking about Stephens' tone in this article. This anticipation that somehow this Trump will be better than the last iteration of Trump, that this Trump will be better than the man who tore the country apart, that this Trump will be better and have a better character and a better perspective and a better persona and a better style of leadership than the man who led a conspiracy to overthrow a free and fair election in 2020. The man whose conspiracy inspired and his words inspired a violent assault on the United States Capitol. The man who demands a fictional loyalty test of everyone who wants to work for him. They're asked the question, who won the 2020 election? And if they tell the truth, they won't get the job. So they all bend the knee. This is the Donald Trump who has been adjudicated in a court of sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. This is the Donald Trump who has been found guilty and convicted of financial fraud. This is the Donald Trump whose character we know abundantly well. This is the Donald Trump who stole classified documents. This is the Donald Trump whose behavior, whose low quality of ethical character has been on display for every minute of his adult life. We know who he is. Bret and some of these other folks who are now sort of bending the knee. It's as if they've been in a sensory isolation tank for the last 9 years. There is no better iteration of Donald Trump. There is no moment of Donald Trump where he wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh my gosh, the scales have fallen from my eyes. I don't believe I acted in such a cruel, incompetent way for so long. I can't believe I've been so abusive of my power and the people who follow me and all the." That doesn't exist. Not for Bret, not for anybody else, not for ABC News, not for anyone else in the media who capitulates, not for anyone else in politics who capitulates. Look at Mike Johnson this week. Mike Johnson struggled mightily to produce a CR that could pass the House and pass the Senate, so the government stays open, so veterans get their checks, so Social Security keeps running, so the government maintains its core functions. Mike Johnson has given everything to Donald Trump ever wanted, and still Trump screwed him. This is what we're facing. We're not talking about the hypothetical perfection of some Republican candidate who has been elected and who has promised to govern with probity and judgment and goodwill and conservative principles and limiting the power of the state and fiscal probity and all the things you would think that used to define a Republican imperfectly, by all admissions imperfectly. But all the things they used to believe in, that's not what Brett is going to get. And I think it's naive to imagine that a 77-year-old man will have a change in his character and his behavior and his persona in any way that's not worse than it is going in. But the question here is about the Never Trump movement. And Brett was very, very angry with us for dismissing the concerns of the common man and all those things. First of all, I think that is a fallacy, but we'll leave that on the table for right now. There's a scene in The Godfather where the mobster says, I'm going to speak Italian to Michael for a minute. I'm going to speak Republican for a minute. To Brett and to the other folks that are abandoning the Never Trump movement. And if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. I can't change that. I want to speak Italian to you for a minute here. The fundamentals of modern conservatism emerged from Edmund Burke, who observed at fairly close range the impact of what happened in France during the Revolution. Now, you can think to yourself, oh, well, the monarchy was corrupt and terrible and this and that. The other thing, you don't have to argue the point. And Burke really didn't argue that point in particular. But what he saw was that bereft of tradition, rule of law, governance, leadership, etc., the whim of the mob is a danger to the stability of a society and a nation. What Brett is really asking us to do by saying, oh, you better listen to the ordinary man, is to listen to the will of the mob. Now, that may sound arrogant, that may sound elitist, that may sound, stodgy or what have you. But the fundamental purpose of a majoritarian system in a representative democracy and a constitutional republic is not to listen to the mob. It is to lead and guide. It is to hear their voices, to respond to them, but not to unleash their baser instincts. And Brett seems to think that the Trump base voter was making a set of rational economic decisions only, and that January 6th was overhyped and all the rest of this was overhyped, and that the Never Trump movement was too alarmist about Trump. I will make an argument right now that at no point have I ever been disappointed in making a negative prediction about Donald Trump's behavior. At no point. I have always understood that there is no bottom to this man. There is no depth to which he won't sink. And the disloyalty and the disrespect and the contempt he has for our system and for our country has been striking. So I wrote a piece today in my Substack, and it was called "Forever Never Trump." And I thought about putting in the New York Times and calling him up and saying, "Hey, you should run this because I have this car." But I realized that's the old way. That's the old way of communicating to folks. So we're going to communicate it here on Substack, on socials, because it'll reach more people. I won't have to dither around with softening the language in fear of offending Trump or his audience. And to loop back around to this final bit, I remain never Trump. I am not a progressive. I am not a left-winger. I'm not even a Democrat. I believe deeply in this country. I believe in our founding. I believe in our Constitution at a level that's wired into my DNA. What I don't believe in is radical authoritarianism. What I don't believe in is statism. What I don't believe in is deploying the power of government against your personal and your political and your economic enemies. What I don't believe in is kleptocratic government where your friends get to pick and choose winners and losers inside of the U.S. government and inside of our system. What I don't believe in is abandoning the rule of law, which is the only thing that makes an economy and people able to be free. What I don't believe in is skipping over the parts of the Constitution that we don't like. Donald Trump and Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller and those guys, they may not like the 14th Amendment, but it's an amendment to the Constitution, and they're going to try to do an end run around it. They may not like the 22nd Amendment, as Steve Bannon this week is talking about giving Donald Trump a third term after this one. Good luck. But those things matter. And the kind of people that are relevant in Trump's world are not the grown-ups. They're not the traditionalists. They're not the institutionalists anymore. The people in Trump's world this time will be the same people that were in the room at the Willard conspiring to overthrow the government. They'll be the edge cases, the lunatics, the crazies, the conspiracy people. I wonder how the accommodation that Brett thinks he's making with Trumpism by bowing down and bending the knee and abandoning the movement that he once was a part of, I wonder how he thinks that's going to really result in a different outcome from Donald Trump, and a different behavior set from Donald Trump. You never escape it. Once you have committed yourself as someone who is opposed to him ever, you're not getting back in the tent, and I don't want to be there. Now, the final point about this, the elephant in the room today, is a question of relevance. And it's fascinating to me how many times I hear Trump go, oh, the Never Trump movement is totally irrelevant. He won. You know, we beat him once. We beat him in 2022 across the board and beat Republicans across the board in 2022. And he won an election. Bravo. Congrats. That's a battle, not a war. This is an ongoing challenge to the country. This is an ongoing challenge to America. This is an ongoing challenge to people who say they give a damn about the Constitution. They say they give a damn about the country. They say they give a damn about American principles and the founders. And yet all of the radical nature of Trump's promised second term, this unbelievably lurid circus of cruelty and government expansion and caprice and executive power that they are promising is coming under Project 2025 and Trump's own stated policy goals and President Musk's policy goals, all those things. If you don't think having an opposition movement to that on the right and in the center is relevant, then you've already given up. You've already walked away. You're not going to convince Donald Trump or his followers that a return to conservative principles is a great idea. You know why? Because pain in politics is the only teacher. The only thing people learn from in politics is defeat and pain and suffering. I've learned more from losing than from winning. I like winning. I've won a lot, but I don't ever fool myself that there aren't valuable lessons in a defeat in a battle. We've learned valuable lessons in this. We've learned that the one thing you can't do over and over again to stay relevant is to give up. Once you give up, once you bend the knee, once you say, well, you know, I guess I'll just have to give him a chance, which is what Stevens is saying in this piece, and what some other Republicans who've now like bent the knee again. Oh, we have to give him a chance. We have to see if he can be better. Maybe he'll. That's like saying we're going to let the fox in the hen house, and hopefully he'll only eat a few of the hens this time. We know who he is. The important part, if you believe in the country and you believe in the Constitution, you believe in the rule of law, and you believe in conservative principles, and you don't believe in statism and authoritarianism and kleptocracy and all these things that are fundamentally anathema to conservatism, and you want to stay relevant, you have to stay in the fight. And folks, that is why relevance is the elephant in the room. And I'll close this out by saying, forever, never Trump.
Good night and good luck.